Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 35 of Xbox 2+1. I'm your host, Jez Corden, the man with the million. Oh, wait, no, that's the other guy. I'm the man with 143,000, something like that. And Randall 19, he's not here at the moment because he's had to take his dad to some hospital tests, but he might show up in the middle of the show. So send Rand our best wishes there. But yeah, it's the 30th of December as of recording. We're wrapping up the year, and I'm joined by the illustrious, the epic, the beautiful Paris Lily of GamerTag Radio and Kind of Funny and various other things. Hi there, Paris. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. You said illustrious. I've never been described that way, so thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm a professional writer, so we have to pretend that we actually know some vocabulary every now and then. But yeah, man, it's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Pretty short notice as well. We've I wanted to, because we missed last Friday's show because Christmas and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to make sure that we got a good show up for the peeps as we wrap up the year. But sometimes it can be tough to get everyone's schedules lined up and time zones and all that. So I really, really appreciate it. Thanks, dude.
No, of course. Yeah, just timing worked out perfectly.
Yeah, man. I really wanted to ask you before we kick off, what games have you been playing over the holiday period? Have you had much time off work? Like, what's your holiday been like, man?
I'm actually still working, but with so many people taking PTO and everything, it's really just been super slow. Like technically, I'm working right now, but I'm not.
Oh,
The main game I've been playing, man, has been Hades 2, because I played it during early access and stopped. I'm like, I'm just going to wait till it finally is 1.0. Then when 1.0 dropped, as you know, there was a million other things we had to review during that time. So this has really been my time to really just sink my teeth into it. It's my game of the year. And I don't think
really?
it's recency bias either. I think of everything that I've played this year, it is my favorite game. I just love it. I think they took what they started with the first Hades and they just refined it so much that I just even if a run lasts 5 minutes, I feel like I learned something while doing it. So yeah, it's been great.
Did they change up the formula too much from the original?
Not too much. I mean, some of the ways that you're using weapons and the resources and things are a little different. Obviously, there's the overworld and all that now in Hades 2 versus, the original. But I mean, if you play the first one, just the core mechanics of it are pretty much the same.
Yeah, I got to admit something, man. I could never get into Hades, and it feels like it's like one of my big gaming regrets because I feel like everyone loves it, and I just feel like
I
maybe
get
I'm
it.
playing it wrong or something. I usually get to
I
sorry, go on.
No. Please continue, but because I know exactly what you mean.
What happens to me is I usually get to the third boss or something, um, or is it the second boss? I don't know. Or I'm getting towards the third boss, and I'll just die, and I'll be salty, and it'll be like, and I know this is how roguelikes are, but it feels like there's not a huge amount you can do to make yourself more powerful on death. So you just kind of have to get good. That's kind of the impression I'm getting. So I don't know if I'm like picking the wrong stuff or, just playing it badly or something like that. I haven't really looked into it too much about how to get better at it, I suppose. But when did Hades click for you immediately? Or is it
No,
something that
and that's what I was going to say. It did
uh,
not click for me immediately. A lot of what you're saying right now is kind of how I felt, and it really just took hearing so many people just praising. I'm like, you know what? Let me just sit down. Let me just. I'm going to force myself to understand this, and it is really every run that you do. You're picking up additional resources. Eventually you're going to unlock more weapons, and you just need to understand the enemy types and their attack patterns, and it starts to become muscle memory with them. So every time you're going through, you're getting better, whether you realize it or not, you're getting better at the game. And then when you hit those bosses, that's where you're just like, all right, go in knowing, hey, I may not be able to defeat the boss this time, but let me understand how they're attacking me, what the different waves of attacks that'll come, phases with the bosses. And eventually, once you understand that, then it becomes second nature and you're able to, run through it. And then you also have to realize, and this is in Hades 1 and going into Hades 2, the different types of upgrades that you're getting, you want to stack things that make sense and kind of synergize together so that either you're getting better armor or you're increasing your damage percentage or things like that. That's how you have to start looking at it. And once you understand that part of the game, it clicks. And then you really start progressing. And as you progress, then you're just motivated. It's all right. It's almost like Civ, where you're like, one more turn, it's like one more run. One more run. I got to keep going. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with Hades 2.
I think that's one of my roadblocks is like understanding the relationship between the different power-ups that you get room over room. So yeah, I think I'll probably go back to it. I think, it's one of those kind of games where, it's perfect for the Xbox Ally. And I do a ton of gaming on Xbox Ally at the moment. Like, absolutely. Like, I'd say like good, maybe more than half of my gaming on Xbox Ally right now. So, like, that's the kind of game that really, really suits the Xbox Ally. Have you been playing much on the Xbox Ally? Where do you play Hades?
All right, let's get a little controversial here.
Oh, no.
Right off the top. I still prefer the Steam Deck.
Whoa!
I know the Ally X is more powerful.
Whoa!
The handles, the ergonomics are fantastic. It is a great piece of tech, but I just like the Steam and Steam Deck OLED. To be clear, I just like that screen better. I just do, and I understand that it's not as powerful, but for a game like Hades 2, it's just fine to play on. So I find when I am playing on handheld, I still gravitate more towards the Steam Deck than I do the Ally X. And I'm sure we're going to get into this anyways. They still have work to do on Windows. And I think that's what takes me out of it. And trust me, when I'm playing on it, it's fine. I like it. But if you were to ask me which one am I going to choose, I'm going to choose the Steam Deck. And as a consumer, it is still the cheaper device. I think that also plays into it as well.
No, I definitely, I completely understand that. I like part of the I use the Xbox Ally X as my main handheld right now, and I do own a Steam Deck. I own Lenovo Legion Go. I own the original ROG Ally. I got way too many handhelds, and I'm in this weird universe where I compare and contrast them all the time, right? And I have access. I'm very lucky. I have access to all this kind of stuff. And the other day I was because the Xbox full screen experience came to the Lenovo Legion Go. So I got the Lenovo Legion Go out of the drawer and started updating it. And I was like, oh God, I forgot how good an OLED screen is because it's Legion Go's got an OLED screen. I think the IPS display on the Ally X is very good for an IPS display, but OLED is it's a cut above, isn't it? And also the size, like it's I really like the size on it, but at the same time it doesn't feel very good because it's so big. But at the same time, furthermore, I completely hear what you're saying about the ergonomics of the actual software, because I think that's what's really letting the Xbox Ally X down now and really gives Steam a cutting edge. One thing that really bugs me about the Xbox Ally X is how unresponsive the Xbox app is. Like when you exit a game, you wait in a good 20 seconds, maybe more, before you can use the joysticks again. And it's just like, you don't have that experience on Steam, on the Steam Deck. It's like responsive immediately upon closing a game. It's all those kind of weird little things. I think like they've really got to dig deep and figure out how to fix. Part of me wonders like, is this just an issue with, because they use Electron, right? Or WebView or something for the Xbox app, which means that it's pulling a lot of the data for it down from the internet, including UI elements. And I think that contributes to it feeling laggy, but I don't know. I completely feel what you're saying. Like, what are some of the things about the? Sorry, go on. I was just gonna say, what are some things about the Ally X that you find to be particularly annoying?
I do think it's the responsiveness of the Xbox app. And when you're switching into going into Windows, like if you're going back and forth between desktop mode into that, there's definitely some lag there and some unresponsiveness that happens. While I think the navigation using that Xbox button is pretty handy and the basics are there, there's still little things that I wish I could do. Like I wish I had a shortcut for Discord, as an example, right there. So I can connect into Discord if I want to voice chat with people. I still think there's some things on the third party app side that they need to figure out. And I'm sure you've had these conversations with them. I have too. So they know it's on the to-do list, but it's not there today. And the one thing I was going to add in right before you asked that was, I think the biggest indictment that I have right now with what they're doing on the Windows side compared to Steam is if you put Bazite on the Ally X, and I've not done it personally, I've just seen videos, people talking about it, the performance is better. And we already know just the UI and the navigation in Steam is better than doing it in the Xbox app right now. It's not terrible, but then when you have a direct comparison to it and you see how much better it could be, that's what they need to strive to get. And I get it. They got the whole to-do list that they're going to go into 2026, things that they're going to fix and, refine and make it better. But as we sit here today on December 30th, 2025, I mean, Steam is just the preferred UI right now to use. And like I said, I think that's the biggest indictment. And I'll say again, once you're actually playing the games, it's fine. I have no issues with when I'm actually playing a game. It's entering into a game or navigating out of a game where I have issues with. And then I think the biggest one, which there's a quote unquote hack, a third party app that you can put in. You could put was it Steam Grid DB on there?
I've got that, yeah.
And load in the cover art, from the third party stores in there. I mean, great. It's great that I can do that, but I shouldn't have to do that. That should just should natively work inside of Windows. So, I mean, I knew all of this going all the way back, when we first got to see it at the Xbox Showcase in June, and then I got hands-on at Gamescom. I was like, this will not be perfect at launch. And they knew that too. So the fact that they know and they're not, treating this like, hey, it's perfect, this is great, but they know they have work to do. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. But like I said before, if someone were to come to me and say, hey, Parris, which handheld should I get right now? I'm still going to say Steam Deck for everything that I just said.
Well, the thing that stops me from using the Steam Deck is I just don't use Steam very much. I'm an Xbox ecosystem person. So like the things you describe about like the Steam OS is, better for the form factor, and it definitely is. But I'm just like, I'd rather have Game Pass. I'd rather have the openness, because I know you can install third-party launchers on Steam if you jump through all those hoops. But the situation is you describe like, oh, I have to use an app to get the thumbnail art correct on the Xbox Ally. The amount of hoops you have to jump through to get Battle.net or Genshin Impact Launcher or half of these other things running on Steam Deck is way more complicated and irritating than the Steam Grid app,
Oh, no, and I'm with you on that. I totally agree and understand that. The advantage that they have right now, and again, they still got work to do on this, is the combination of Game Pass and Play Anywhere, to where the incentive is get the game through the Microsoft Store, the Xbox Store, or however you want to phrase it, or subscribe to Game Pass, and you have the flexibility of, I can still put Steam on this, I can still put Battle.net on this, I can bring in the other third-party digital stores, but for the Xbox games, I have availability to them not only on this handheld, but on my PC, on the Xbox, obviously cloud, and all that as well. And I am a fan. Look, we know there's people out there that disagree with this. I see the vision of what they're doing and I like it. And I think once they actually perfect it and get it to where it all makes sense, it probably does become the preferred platform, because I have options on the device that I want to play my games and I don't have to buy it once or subscribe once if it's Game Pass. But to your point, if you're a Steam user, if you're a heavy Steam user, it's no question, get Steam Deck. And obviously Steam Machine and all that's about to come out as well. But once Microsoft figures this out on the Windows side, I can have Steam and all the perks of that, but then I get everything that Microsoft is doing too.
Yeah, I suppose that's the kicker, isn't it? I mean, one of the issues I've got with the whole Xbox Ally proposition right now, I don't know why. The other day, I just randomly felt like playing Binding of Isaac. Binding of Isaac is not available on Xbox PC. I wanted to play it on my Steam Deck, my Xbox Ally, sorry. It gets confusing with all these different bloody devices.
Right. I know, yeah.
I wanted to play Binding of Isaac on the Xbox Ally, but it's not available on Xbox PC, so or the Microsoft Store. So, I have to get it from Steam. And that's one of my issues. My biggest issue with Xbox PC right now is I literally went through the entire store, the entire Microsoft store for the Xbox PC. I own literally every single game I could possibly want from the Xbox PC store. There's not enough games on there. And the amount of organic traffic that they get from developers, both indie and publishers alike, is way too low. Like basic stuff. Like I can't get the Binding of Isaac on Microsoft Store for Xbox Ally. I have to get it from Steam. So it's almost like Microsoft's encouraging me to become a Steam user if I want to make sure I've got a platform that gets everything. They're in a chicken and egg kind of scenario with some of this stuff. Do you think like we'll see some developments in 2026 to encourage more developers to arrive on the Microsoft Store more organically? Because up until now, kind of feels like those games are only arriving on Xbox PC as a result of a Game Pass deal, with a few exceptions.
I would hope so. You would think so, because bringing this back into the calendar year. I'll start this way, and I always butcher his last name, so I'm never going to try it. But Pavan, he's the president of Windows and Devices over at Microsoft. Yeah. When I was up there for the 50th anniversary, I got a chance to sit down with him for some time, and
oh wow!
And this was before, and we talked about the whole Windows strategy, and because he wanted to know what I thought about Windows as a gaming platform, what I liked and what I didn't like, and we just got into this whole conversation about it. And with my background being cybersecurity, I was kind of giving my concerns on the security side of it as well. And long story short, I took from that conversation, he did not say this directly, I want to be clear. I was like, okay, I see what you guys are doing. Windows is going to be Xbox, and Xbox is going to be Windows. This is what I said to him, and he kind of smiled and had a little cheeky grin after that. And since that point, I've been saying this all year. And then obviously you go to the showcase and you saw with Sarah Bond with the AMD video. It's pretty clear they want Windows to be the gaming platform, and whatever their next gen strategy is going to be surrounding Windows. And I'm not asking you for anything that you may or may not know. This is just my pure speculation. I want to be crystal clear on that. It seems to me we're to the point of what you're asking. They're going to make sure that those type of things get integrated into Windows, along with some kind of backwards compatibility strategy and all that, because they want Windows to be the operating system and the quote unquote platform that scales across multiple devices for their gaming strategy moving forward. That's what I took from that conversation. So like I was saying, then you go into the showcase, what they were talking about there, and with Play Anywhere, it just seems like, and obviously seems like they have a very strong partnership with Square moving forward, that, yeah, they are going to be reaching out to more third-party publishers and developers to make sure that their games are playable on Windows, because Windows is going to power whatever they're doing in the next few years.
I think I think we could see some major announcements at GDC. I mean, you said you weren't digging for information on things that I know. I don't know a great deal. Like, I don't have a document which has like a bullet pointed list about what they're going to do. But the things that I do know, the things that I put in my report, I think, when did I put that out? November or October? I can't remember now. But I put out a report that says like the next Xbox runs full Windows. It runs full bore Windows. The full screen experience on the Xbox Ally is the shell for the next console, which is going to be a PC effectively. You'll be able to exit out to the desktop. But thanks to the chip integration that they've got going on with AMD, the games that you own on Xbox will also carry forward to that device. So I presume what's going to happen in the interim, say for maybe 5 years into the gen, you'll see developers, publishers releasing Xbox Series S and X and Xbox One versions of games. And then eventually they'll transition across fully to Xbox PC as the development platform. Another thing I've heard, Parris, and for all of you listening, the Xbox Two universe, I've heard that they are going to crack open publishing and make it more Steam-like. So one of the issues that like indie developers constantly talk about, not just from Xbox's perspective, but also PlayStation, Nintendo, is that compared to Steam, it's a pain to publish on their platforms. They have to jump through loads of hoops. They have to achieve all these sort of this checklist of quality assurances, and also like just sort of lots of arbitrary rules that are maybe outdated by modern standards. Whereas Steam's just takes a more like community-driven approach. Like the community curates the games that succeed on Steam, you know. And there's like some algorithmic stuff on the side, sure, but like they don't dictate what games get published on Steam. They also like they don't dictate what sales events happen on the platform as well. Like there's another thing that I often hear from indie devs is that they can't just set up a sale for their own games. They have to apply for a sale via an email, and that email is often not answered, you know, because it requires a human to intervene and decide whether, you know. But Microsoft's moving to a model that is going to be more Steam-like and PC-like, because Steam sets the standard on what PC development looks like. And also for us console gamers, Xbox ecosystem gamers, I think that also means we lose the paywall for multiplayer as well. But I've got to ask you, Parris, I've got to ask you, because like you put a tweet out last week that you said the next-gen console should be delayed because of the RAM issues and stuff like that. How much of a, I don't know. How much do you think Microsoft cares about the RAM issue to the point where they would delay it? Because personally, for me, I don't think they're looking at this next Xbox as a mass market thing. I think they're looking at it as this is for our hardcore audience, and our casual audience now exists on Steam and PlayStation. But we still want to have a device that our hardcore audience can join us for the ride with, you know. So, like in my head, they probably wouldn't delay it on the basis of the RAM prices. But how do you feel like, based on your feeling, your gut feeling, how do you think Xbox's next gen is going to play out with regards to all this kind of stuff?
So my thought on that has slightly changed. I'm still leaning towards, on a personal note, I would rather them just delay it, but it really just comes down to stability. Like, I am not expecting RAM prices to go back to what they were, but I hope we get to some point where they stabilize. Like, all right, here's the quote unquote new norm for what RAM prices are and availability. And then these companies, you know, obviously Microsoft, the PlayStation, etc., can base that on how they're going to price their next generation of hardware. And going along those lines, thinking about it more realistically, and obviously this is all rumor and speculation, I'm under the impression we'll see the next Xbox in a year from now, probably at the 25th anniversary, right? They'll announce it and show it or whatever, but then it'll probably still be another year before they actually deliver it. So we're really talking 2 years from now, from when we're doing this conversation. So when you think of it that way, and again, knock on wood, you would hope all of this stabilizes within the next 24 months. And if that's the case, then they can price it accordingly for whatever it is. I don't expect it to be cheap. They've made that clear. It's not going to be cheap. I've already had in my head, let's start at $1,000 and go from there. So to that point of what you're saying, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't. I just, depending on how all this RAM stuff goes with AI and these data centers and what these companies are going to allocate to who and where, like, I really think the Steam machine should probably be delayed, because I just think things are in such flux. And if they're going to deliver that in the next 120 days or so, I don't know how realistic that is with the current RAM shortages. So that, sure, you can announce it and say, hey, it's available in 500 people get it, and I know I'm exaggerating, and then everyone has to wait for an extended period of time because they don't have the RAM availability. So when you think about the Xbox and that really they're not going to ship it for 2 more years, you're probably right. They probably don't delay it. And the price is going to be the price because they're already telling us it's going to be premium. It's not going to be for everyone. And if you don't want to spend the money to get it, you can still play the games on PlayStation. You can build your own PC. You get a handheld, stream it over the cloud or whatever. So maybe you're right in that. They don't delay it.
I suppose, like, if like RAM prices come down, theoretically they can, you know, decrease the price of it over time, because that's what used to happen when we were kids, Paris. What used to happen is the consoles launched expensive and then they got cheaper over time. And like if things happen, like the disk drive broke or the Red Ring of Death, you could just, you know, oh, it's actually a lot cheaper than it was when I bought it originally. I can probably just buy a new one. But it's not like that anymore. If you bought an Xbox Series X at launch, you are now probably sitting on something that's increased in value. It's almost like an investment.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah,
it's weird. It's never happened before in our lifetime. So, but the thing is, I think what it reflects to some degree, and this is another thing I wanted to talk to you about. What it reflects to some degree is the purchasing power of the target market, because I think like increasingly so. Microsoft, Sony, at least Microsoft and Sony have been ringing these alarm bells. The Gen Z and Gen Alpha don't want a console, you know. And I know everyone likes to focus on Xbox's hardware figures, and Xbox's hardware figures are, I don't know, they're down, whatever they're down. I can't remember off the top of my head. They're down a lot year over year. And then PlayStation is also down year over year to a lesser extent. And, you know, I had a back and forth with some people on Twitter last week where they were talking about Xbox's sales figures. And I was like, well, how do you interpret the PlayStation being down as well? And they were like, oh, PlayStation is down because it's more expensive than last year or something like that, you know. But I kind of feel like in my head, and I can't remember if you got kids, Paris. Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have 3.
So, yeah, you do. So I want to, like, this is like, I don't have kids because I am an adult child. So I'm hardly responsible enough to have children. But this is like a good question for you as a parent, and like anyone else who's listening to this on Spotify or watching it live on YouTube or via Patreon. Do you think there is genuinely a generation? Are we seeing a generational issue with consoles? Are they now seen as something that adults and boomers are into? Or is it like, and that's also being reflected in the price, where companies feel, Microsoft and maybe PlayStation feel more comfortable to price them at $1,000 because they're no longer targeting college students or teenagers or kids. They're targeting people with disposable income, people in their 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe even. Do you think there's a generational issue facing consoles, and is that having an effect on the prices as well as the RAM issue?
Before I answer that, can I create about 60 seconds of suspense, because I think someone's at my door and I need to go see really quick.
You
I'll
can.
be right back in 60 seconds.
Create the suspense, baby. Yeah, so I'll get some chats at the moment. So first of all, welcome to everyone who's watching live on patreon.com/XB2. This show goes out live on Patreon initially, and then we launch it a little bit later on my channel on YouTube. So if you're watching this right now, it's pre-recorded on December 30th, but you can watch it live with us on XB2. Also sponsored by Surfshark VPN, surfshark.com/XB2 if you want to get 8% off. A really, really cool deal for the best VPN in the world. Alpha Layer says, did Microsoft know about the RAM shortage when they committed to a premium price tag? That's a good question. I imagine they would have done, right? So Microsoft's in the server business, and the server business is exactly the reason why there's a RAM shortage right now. So if I'm a Microsoft, I would assume that I had some prior knowledge of the fact that RAM prices were probably going to be screwed up, right? But I also think like if the RAM prices come down, Microsoft will reflect that in the price, which is why like they waited until the last second to announce the Xbox Ally price point. because they wanted to know, is there going to be a extenuating circumstance like a random new tariff or some other random BS that changes the price. They want this to be as affordable as possible without necessarily making it unprofitable for them. These devices have to be profitable. In current year, Microsoft is a company that is utterly controlled by their share price and their shareholders, and there's not a single loss leader at Microsoft as a business entity now. Every division has to pull its weight. That's Satya Nadella's philosophy, for better or worse. Are you back with us, Parris?
Yes, I am back.
Welcome back.
To answer the question, so my 3 kids, and I've talked about this in the past, my 3 kids like literally do not care about if it's Xbox, PlayStation, ColecoVision. They don't care. What is the most convenient way I can play the games that I want to play? And they're big like Fortnite players. My oldest daughter loves Marvel Rivals. They don't care. It doesn't matter to them. So having your game available across multiple devices makes way more sense for them than it does to say, hey, I need to get an Xbox or I need to get a PlayStation. They just go, can I play it on my phone? Cool. That's where I'll play it then. I don't care. You know, they're not like us.
Like, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, so to your point of these increased prices being more targeted at people with disposable income, so they're more expensive, does kind of make sense in that way. I can't even talk. I'm sorry, because this current generation, and I would assume the generation after that, they don't think the way that we do. So why are you still trying to, put a what's the phrase? Put a round peg in a square hole or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But you get it. It's changed. It absolutely has changed. Square hole, round peg, whatever. You know what I'm saying.
Have you seen that meme with the last and the guy's like, it goes in the square hole? Have you seen that meme?
No, I have not seen that. No.
So I'm chronic. You gotta look that up. It's hilarious. But yeah, I'm chronically online, man. But yeah, I hear that a lot from other parents who've got like similarly aged kids, right? And I often forget that you're like Gen X, right? You're a bit older than me. I have to forget that because you do not look it, Parris. You don't.
Yes, I'm an old man. Yes,
yeah, you don't look it. But but I do get this sense that like from like my good friend Genbox360, for example, she's got a 17-year-old, and he's kind of the same way, where it's just like I feel like all these kids have grown up with, because when we were coming up as kids, like I'm pushing 40, and the gaming was not like a ubiquitous thing where like it was on every device you had. It was like you opted into it. You made an effort to opt in to your team, almost like a Nintendo, Sony, or Xbox. A lot of families couldn't afford all 3, so you kind of opted into a team. And then it also, almost for a lot of people, especially our age, and some people who still to this day can't really get over this mentality, it's almost like you're picking a sports team and you're batting for your team, and all that kind of stuff. But for like a lot of these kids, it's like gaming is just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's like water. Mm-hmm. No matter what connected device you pick up, it's got the game you want to play on it. It's got the viral game that everyone in your school is talking about. I remember my first experience of gaming virality was probably Pokemon Red and Blue, where like everyone at school suddenly needed to have a Game Boy, and everyone at school was running around with those link cables. I don't know if you experienced this yourself, but like I was like, I don't know, maybe I must have been like 11 or 12, 13, something like that. And everyone was running around with Game Boy Color and a Game Boy SP, and with these link cables so they could like battle their Pokemon and trade the Pokemon. Oh, can you evolve Macadabra and stuff in the playground and stuff like that? That's like my first experience of virality, but you still had to like make the effort to convince your parents to buy you a Game Boy, which wasn't really cheap. And then jump through all those hoops. But kids don't even have to pay for the viral games anymore. They're free. They're all free. So I suppose like without that sort of emotional attachment to the brands of Xbox, PlayStation, and even to some extent, Nintendo. Like Nintendo sales are down too year over year. In their first Christmas, to be down year over year, I think he's like, that's the kind of thing that I think sets alarm bells ringing in analysts' minds about the direction of the console ecosystem. Do you think, like, in that universe, um, is this why PC seems to be the platform that's sort of the one that seems to be surviving through this weird generational shift? Because it's not about the platform, it's just about where the games are available, right?
Yeah, I definitely think that has something to do with it because PC is truly an open platform. So you're deciding on what digital store you want to get your games from. Obviously, the majority is Steam, but you have that choice. You have that flexibility on what you want to do. And then, like you just mentioned, the free to play games that, you know, are dominating the market also play a factor into that. If I can go jump into a game where I don't have an upfront cost to see if I like it, that appeals to people. And then if they like it, obviously we see what Fortnite, Marvel Rivals, etc., they're willing to then spend the money on it. But I mean, when I think about PC gaming, it to me comes to the fact that when I build a PC, if I build a quote unquote powerful enough PC when I first purchase it, it can scale across generations, so to speak. I don't have to now get another PC in 5 or 6 years to play the latest game. Maybe it can't do path tracing or whatever bells and whistles are out at that time, but I can still play whatever the latest game is. I'm not forced to buy more hardware to continue to play the games that I want to play. And I do think that factors into it. And now that consoles are starting to cost so much more, it isn't well, that's just the cheapest option. I can go buy a console. Like I saw something for, because, you know, with the 360 anniversary, someone had pulled up some old advert where like there was a 360, I think it was like $199 or something crazy like that, right? I was like, wow, I completely forgot it was that cheap to get a console at one point. And that just isn't the reality anymore. And obviously consoles are still cheaper than a PC, but if you really, really want to, you can build a PC that's going to last you for X amount of years that isn't that much more than a console. And now I have the open platform, the flexibility to play whatever games that I want. And clearly Microsoft or Xbox started putting their game, what was it, 2016? They started day and dating their games on PC. PlayStation isn't doing that. I mean, they're seemingly, it's about let's just say an 12 to 18 month cycle of their games are starting to show up on PC. But if your game isn't there and I have so many other options on PC of games that I want to play, then I'm more than willing to wait for your game to show up there. And that's just kind of, I think, where we are now.
If this is the reality on the ground, and I feel like as someone who does play on PC a significant amount, and you know, most of my friends are on PC now. Like my brother has moved to Steam mostly for his gaming. My best friends in real life, they've got Steam decks and they mostly play on Steam now. Formerly Xbox centric. If this is the way like things are going, like even beyond Xbox, if like your Gen Z or Gen Alpha, why do you think it really does feel like Microsoft's leaning into that trend? But why is if correct me if you think I'm wrong on this or if I'm in some kind of bubble, but it feels like Microsoft is being met with hostility from pretty much everyone for leaning into that trend. Am I crazy, or is that something that you perceive happening as well?
I think social media is leaning into it. I think the average person doesn't care. That's what I think, personally. I mean, obviously, look, we're seeing the sales number. People are not buying Xbox hardware. But if you want to play an Xbox game, they've signaled, we don't care if you buy our hardware because we're making sure it's available in more places so that you have access to it. They're essentially creating access points to their titles. I mean, how successful that's going to be in the long term, we will see, but it has gone against the traditional model that I know I've grown up with, that you've grown up with. So people always, change is never easy. You're always going to push back against change. My sticking point on this is, and I don't know if you even wanted to jump into this whole part of the conversation. Obviously, you and I are very public facing people. Let's put it that way, right? So the things that we say, people see it and people are going to analyze it and it's going to go around. So if you see some of the things that I said 4 or 5 years ago, is going to be different than what I'm saying today. And I do think Xbox is to blame for some of that, because I know back in 2020, 2021, when they acquired Bethesda, exclusives did matter to them. I know that for a fact, right? And
that's why Starfield is exclusive.
Yeah. I know. Well, look, I literally stood on one of their stages and said it myself. So I know. And that changed, I don't know, what, 24 months ago, 24 months ago, whatever the bad math is on that, it changed. So people see that and they say, well, you were saying this, you were saying that. And it was like, yeah, I was, because that was the game. That's how it traditionally always was. So when Xbox/Microsoft literally pivots their strategy in the middle of a generation, it creates a lot of foot and mouth when it comes to that. Right. So I personally wish, this is just me, I personally wish that if they were going to make this pivot, they did it at the start of a generation and go, look, we're no longer having our games exclusive. We're now going to just put them across multiple platforms because we want everyone to play and have access to their games. And I don't think they would get the quote unquote social media heat that they get if that was the strategy. But to basically tell someone in 2020, buy my hardware because this is the only place you can play Halo or Gears or Forza, etc. And then 3-4 years later say, nah, that's okay. You don't have to do that. That is going to upset some people. Of course it will. I mean, that's just human nature, of course, because maybe that person makes a different decision in 2020 on the console that they buy. Maybe they would have bought a PlayStation instead because, hell, the games are going to be there anyways. Why am I buying an Xbox? And that goes to what I asked Phil back in January when we got a chance to talk to him. You're saying all this stuff, no red lines, all these things. Well, then why am I buying an Xbox? And he obviously gave the answer that he gave. We will see how that plays out in execution.
What did he say?
I mean,
remind us.
Essentially what they're doing right now, they want their hardware to be innovative. They want the hardware to essentially speak for itself, that you want to buy it, versus us saying you have to buy it to play this game, for lack of a better term.
Oh yeah, I remember writing that headline now. Phil, he said something like, we want to win on our hardware. I think he said something along the lines of that.
Yeah.
For the sake of the hardware, and it's really funny though how narratives shift and change. Because I remember like when the Xbox One launched, and for the sake of like a few pixels per inch, everyone was clowning on the Xbox One for not being as powerful as the PS4. For the sake of like an almost imperceptible amount of pixels in some cases. And now you've got sort of like a situation where people are actually calling for games that run at better frame rates and less pixels per inch, less resolution or whatever. So it's funny how narratives shift and change, and it always seems like Xbox comes up on the back foot in all of these situations. It's like resolution mattered and now it doesn't matter, and Xbox loses both ways. And it's also like, on the whole exclusives topic and things like that, like exclusives really matter now. And this is sort of like, I think Sean Layden actually put out a statement recently where he was like, there are some like iconic franchises. He said something along the line, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of, not every game needs to be exclusive, i.e. Marathon, because that's going to be everywhere, right? Even on Xbox. And Helldivers, that came to Xbox, published by Sony, for example. And I presume Marathon will be arrive on Xbox, published by PlayStation LLC or whatever. But then he said, like, there are some franchises that, you know, really need to remain exclusive to sort of sell the brand and things like that. In that universe, in that post, you know, I think like Xbox really had, we all knew that Halo was going to be multi-platform after, you know, Gears went multi-platform, Forza went multi-platform. We all knew this was happening. You know, once they'd ripped the Band-Aid off, it was just a matter of time before Halo itself was going to end up on PlayStation. But it's, at the same time, it still felt like a watershed moment. This is the Xbox guy, the green dude in the mech suit, you know, the iconic Halo character, is now going to their arch rival PlayStation. Do you think Microsoft can do enough hardware innovation to offset that difference, to offset that sort of, I don't know, that visibility? I can't even describe what I'm trying to say, but it's like there's.
I think I know what you're saying.
The symbolism of it. The symbolism of it.
Yeah.
Can the hardware beat that?
Yeah, and I'm gonna answer it this way. Going back to Sean Layden, he's right. I do think he's right in this sense. If your hardware is essential to your business model, then yes, I do think you need some type of exclusivity. You do need a carrot on the end of the stick to get someone to go, I need to buy that device because I want to play that game. It makes sense. And I'll use this analogy. While it'll be, again, allegedly, while it'll be available on multiple devices, Half-Life 3 will be, guess what? If it's real and it does come out, you got to get that from Steam. So in their digital ecosystem of their store, they only want you buying it from Steam. Mm-hmm. But Steam itself will be available on any PC you build, Steam Deck, obviously all that stuff, which is fine. But he is correct that since we're talking Sean Layden and just think of it from a PlayStation standpoint, sure, PlayStation will be putting their games, they will have time exclusivity for their games that will eventually show up on a PC. They're using that in this current landscape to still say, you got to buy a PlayStation 6 if you want to play Ghost of Yotei right away. You want to play Wolverine right away, you're going to have to go buy a PlayStation to do that. Xbox, to answer your question, is no longer prioritizing their hardware. That is just clear as day. I don't think there's any other way to look at that. They're basically saying, we're still going to make hardware, but it's more boutique now than essential. If you want the next Xbox, and this is why I think they're also doing this hybrid approach, and like you said, that AMD chip on the devices that they supply, and again, knock on wood, probably has some backwards compatibility tied to it, all of that. Sure, you can go do that. It's not going to be cheap. We're not subsidizing it anymore, but it's optional. If you want to go play Halo, you want to go play Forza Horizon 6 or Fable, sure, you can play it on this device, but you can also play it on the PC. You can play it on the handheld. You can buy it on Steam. You can play it on the PlayStation. We're good. We're making sure the game itself is available to wherever you want to go play instead of us forcing you to come to this device to play the game. Now, their legacy stuff, when you talk backwards compatibility, sure, you're still going to have to buy a quote unquote Xbox to be able to do that. So it's differences in philosophy. And I think that's the disconnect that I think some people are having, that Microsoft has decided we're no longer playing the traditional game. We're pivoting into something that may or may not work because we have no idea if it does, but they're doing something different. And I mean, there's no other way to look at it that the Activision acquisition, more so than the Bethesda one, has fast forwarded a lot of this stuff. You know, like I said, if you go back in time with Bethesda, it was pretty clear Bethesda was going to be exclusive. Elder Scrolls 6 was going to be exclusive. That's not going to happen anymore. Obviously, Starfield was, which now even that's not going to happen. That's obviously going to eventually come to PlayStation 5 as well. But I think the Activision one is where you spent, what was it, 69 billion or whatever it was, that clearly changed their business model. The Xbox hardware itself was still in third place. Because again, remember going to Phil interviews when we had Phil on XCast and he was not in a great mood. He told us everything right then and there, which to this day, the most pivotal and at the same time, the most shocking interview I've ever been a part of in my life. Because we were not expecting that at all. He was coming on there to talk about Game Pass, and instead he was not in a good mood because obviously the Redfall thing happened. The CMA was blocking it at the time, and he just spilled the beans on everything that was going on with the business. And when you look from that point of that interview to where we are now, he told you everything that you needed to know, because he said in that interview, it didn't matter if Starfield was an 11 out of 10. That alone was not going to be enough for them to get people to buy an Xbox, because most people had already made the decision the previous generation on their digital libraries and PlayStation 1. So they could keep trying, but clearly they decided instead of trying to play the traditional game, we got to do something different. And here we are. I know that was a very long-winded reply, so I hope I answered your question.
No, he definitely did. And I remember that interview. It was shocking. You know, he said all the things he said, and it came across as defeatist to me, honestly. You know, but it also comes back to my mentality of like, this is a sport, you know, and these are sports teams. You know, as someone who thinks of gaming in more like a hobbyistic kind of context rather than like a Gen Z or a Gen Alpha kind of context where it's just like gaming just is, you know, it flows like water out of a tap. You know, for me, like gaming is like a hobby and a passion. It's something like I'm, you know, really interested in, not just like playing the games themselves, but also the industry, as you are as well, right? The industry, knowing the people involved and the artistry of it and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think of it like a utility like Gen Z and Gen Alpha does you know, generalizing here. But also I think Microsoft to some degree, because they're sort of aggressively like, we need to lean into the trends. We need to lean into the trends. And they do this. They did this with Windows Phone. They did this with Skype. You know, Skype's dead now and all this kind of stuff. And I sit here wondering, like, how much of this is a self-fulfilling prophecy? You know, like if they had made Doom exclusive and they had made Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive, and you know, and some of these other kind of games that have this potentiality to make people buy them, even if they're not 11 out of 10 games or 12 out of 10 games or whatever they need to be in Phil's estimate for them to deliver sales. Like, personally, I think Elder Scrolls 6 being Xbox exclusive would sell Xbox consoles, even if it was mid. You know, because there's just such a passionate fan base there, and it's hard not as a fan. It's hard not to think, is there a universe where we could peer into another dimension and like the Fallout TV shows popping off, you know, and maybe like, God, what if like Fallout 5 was exclusive, given how like popular the TV show's been and all that kind of stuff. But it really feels like Microsoft's not in this sort of mentality nowadays of, we'll bide our time, we'll wait, and we'll invest. It really feels like under Satya Nadella, and this is true across the board, it's not just Xbox, it's true across the board with like Satya Nadella's culture and what he's sort of done to Microsoft and Xbox. It's like, we're not going to have a loss leader and wait. We're going to lean in today. We're going to be profitable today, no matter what kind of damage that does to the long-term branding and stuff like that. I watched you know, people's long-term idea of what Xbox is and how reliable they are. I watched a business documentary the other day about Jaguar. You know, you know the car brand Jaguar, right? I'm using the American pronunciation for you, because we say Jaguar in Britain. I'm saying Jaguar. I'm saying Jaguar for the Americans. And but I watched they had a big rebranding last year, which was it's now notorious rebranding. It was all pink and there was no cars in it. It was all Art Deco and, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And it was very sort of like intentionally like a huge pivot away from the classic Jaguar kind of iconography and this sort of like luxury cars, quite masculine kind of presentation. And as part of that pivot, they have like shut down all production of all their vehicles for a year while they set up new assembly lines to hopefully sell these new Art Deco kind of cars, these hyper luxury cars. Like they want to be up there with like Lamborghini and Ferrari. Like it's a huge, mind blowing risk, which probably is not going to pay off. Being realistic, but they felt like they're in a situation where like um, all their current cars were not selling, and like they sort of push themselves into a corner where it's like we have to radically change in order to survive. And I don't know why I brought up this as an analogy, but I couldn't help but think about Xbox when I was watching this, and think like at least Xbox is doing things like bringing us along with the next gen Xbox. Like a Jaguar is basically they cut off all their old customers. They cut all of them off with this rebrand. Whereas Xbox is like the next Xbox, yeah, it's going to be boutique, like you say, but at least our games library will work and come across with us. And I don't feel like Microsoft gets enough credit for that, because they are a publicly traded company, and yeah, they're an asshole corporation and all this kind of stuff, and they do shitty things, sure. But like, I feel like Microsoft could have just as easily just been like, yeah, if you've got an Xbox One or Xbox Series X and you've got thousands of games, well, we go on a PC now and you guys are screwed, I feel like they could have just as easily done that, and they haven't. And I think it's a direct result of Phil being there that they haven't done that. I feel like without Phil, Satya would have put a yes man in charge, and we would have ended up in a situation where they would become a publisher, if maybe not doing hardware at all. Like, how do you feel? Because I feel like I've known you quite a while now, Paris, and I think like we've seen Xbox go through these permutations where Phil was the guy. It was almost like, to use WWE terms, he was like a baby face, right? He was the baby face of Xbox. He was the guy, the champion of Xbox. And over the last couple of years, he's become something of a heel figure. And again, it might just be a social media bubble. But like, how do you think Phil's tenure is gone as a big Xbox watcher, analyst, and Phil Spencer interview?
Here's what I'll say without betraying any trust. I've had multiple Xbox employees tell me it could be way worse. Xbox may not even be here right now if it was not for Phil Spencer. I've had people tell me that you'd be surprised how much he's done internally to essentially fight for the brand, basically, right? But to answer your question, I'm sure there's a lot he could have done better, of course. I mean, let's put it this way. If Xbox was the leader in the market, then all their games would be exclusive. That's a fact. I don't think we can argue that. I think a lot of the things that they've done, they had to do by necessity. But I think they've also tried, to your point about the backwards compatibility and forwards compatibility of their games and accessories, to give some respect to the consumer that we're not just going to simply abandon you. Because look, let's just be real. We go through the history of Microsoft. This has happened with the multiple products. Shout out to the Zune. So it could be way worse than what it is right now. And like I said, I don't agree with everything that they've done. Like I said, I don't like that they did this pivot in the middle of a generation. I wish it would have been to start a generation so that people can make informed decisions about the devices they're going to purchase, right? I think the layoffs and the things that we've seen are freaking terrible. I mean, I have personal friends that have been affected by this, so it sucks. it's crazy to think that he is the longest tenured gaming CEO, or lack of a better term, right? No one would have thought that back in 2014 when he took over. I do think for sure if he did not come on board in 2014, they'd have killed this thing. The Xbox would have went away back then. So I do think he does get some kudos for that. And to answer your other question, I think a lot of it is a social media bubble. People that are really engaged with gaming and, you know, the ins and outs of the business of gaming and all that. That's where I think a lot of this stuff comes from. Because I'll say again, if I were to go ask my oldest daughter right now, who is Phil Spencer? She would say, I have no idea. Who's that? She wouldn't know. You know, and I'm her dad who's in all this stuff, and she still wouldn't know. So I think the majority of people, again, it's a non-factor to them on who's running the company. They want to know, how much value am I going to get? Are you making it worth my while to purchase your product? That's ultimately what all this stuff comes down to. So since I'm on a roll, the Game Pass thing that we're seeing right now, I was clearly one of the main people out there. Best value in gaming, talked about it all the time. This last price increase, it stopped being the best value in gaming. For me, I think it is too expensive now for the average consumer to just blindly go spend their $10 or $15 a month and pick up Game Pass. Because I'll even say this. Again, I'm keeping it all nameless. I had somebody for Xbox. This wasn't the last price increase. It was the one before. And I was saying something online about in comparison to, it was when they did core and whatever the middle one is. And obviously you got ultimate now. I think it was when they did that. But I was saying online then, like, doing this, you're devaluing Game Pass, because essentially it's, unless you're getting the ultimate tier, it's no better than PlayStation Plus at this point. And then, I had a private conversation with someone there that didn't get why I thought that. And I go, you sold us on Game Pass. The thing about Game Pass that made Game Pass so enticing to people was what? Day and date. And now you're pricing it to a point where people have to actually think about it versus just doing it. And whereas PlayStation has never presented PlayStation Plus as something that you wanted to get or that you needed. It was there, but it was not at the front of their marketing pitch to you. No. Whereas Game Pass, that was front and center for reasons to invest into the Xbox ecosystem. Get Game Pass, you're going to get all our games day and date. And now you've priced it to the point where that's not necessarily the case anymore. And that's a bummer. And understand and I'm doing the air quotes, market conditions and business and blah, 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 and all of those things. But as a consumer, I don't care about that. That's a you problem, not a me problem. So when now you're telling me I got to get Ultimate at $30, it's not something that the average person is necessarily going to want to jump in and do. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see. It's really weird with Game Pass, right? Because there are people who've purchased like years of Game Pass ahead of the price increase. So it's almost like, are we going to even see a real impact on the numbers? I mean, we're not going to see a real impact on numbers anyway, because Microsoft doesn't bloody share them, which is endlessly irritating. But, are we going to see like a material impact on, the viability of it as a business model, like in either direction, for like many, many months? Because I presume the amount of people who are paying like month over month is probably like, I don't know, it probably is quite high. But at the same time, it's like, how many of those people are going to unsubscribe, or how many of them rushed out to buy the Amazon $20 gift cards? Because I will tell you this, Parris, Windows Central, we drive a lot of revenue through affiliate marketing, as you know, like all blogs do. and Black Friday is probably the most important week of the year for Windows Central and other blog sites and brands, because we go crazy with the deals, finding the deals that everyone wants to purchase, right? Finding you the best deals, and Amazon gives us a cut. Windows Central's best product by a mile was Game Pass over Black Friday. And it was because Amazon was still selling them at $20. And like I was told, the little birdie at Microsoft told me that the amount of subscribers has actually gone up as a result of the price increase, but not because people are subscribing at $30. It's because they're actively trying to hunt down cheaper deals while they've still got chance to do so. And I think that's going to really skew the numbers as well. Because I think even now, Amazon's still selling it at $20 a month, I think. Let me just double check that. Like, it's almost like the price increase hasn't even fully taken effect yet. And part of me is wondering, like, is Microsoft maybe a little bit nervous about fully committing to the price increase? Because I've also been told, and this is anecdotal, I've been trying to investigate this, and I haven't seen any other examples of this, but someone DM'd me and said that they were offered, like, they tried to unsubscribe to Game Pass, and they were offered, don't unsubscribe, we'll give you a lower price kind of deal. Sometimes that happens when you unsubscribe from certain apps and services. They try and keep you in by offering you a lower price. Like, I unsubscribed from a monthly whiskey thing recently. I bought some concert tickets over the summer, and it came with a free whiskey subscription. And I wanted 3 bottles of whiskey, so I got it. I signed up, and then when I went to unsubscribe, they were like, "Oh no, don't unsubscribe. We'll give it you half off, right?" So I kind of think Microsoft's doing that, and potentially doing that for some people too. Another thing, I'm getting Game Pass Ultimate through my phone provider because it's like an add-on benefit of my contract. I'm getting it for like $17 a month, and my phone operator is still honoring that too. Like, I was going to subscribe because I don't think it's worth $30 a month. I don't play enough of what's in there to justify paying $30 a month. As much as I enjoy the idea of having 1440p cloud gaming, I've got Xbox Ally now. I don't need cloud gaming. So I suppose we won't really see the real impact of some of this stuff in the short term, or maybe not even the medium term. It could be like a while before we start to see real impact of whether or not this price increase is a thing that is going to hurt the amount of subscribers. But one thing you can't deny it hurt is the brand equity. The amount of mainstream YouTubers that put out videos that were like, Xbox is dead, because for the longest time, I feel like in a universe where Xbox didn't have exclusive games, they at least had the exclusive, affordable service, and now they don't, So I think, like, as we wrap up the show, I kind of want to ask you, Parris, what is Xbox's 2026 going to look like in a universe where they've shed their exclusives? Halo's coming to PlayStation. They've shed the value proposition of Game Pass. They've even shed, like, they can't even really sit there and say, like, the Xbox Series S is the cheapest, most affordable way into next gen anymore, because even that's too expensive. And this is the year of Grand Theft Auto 6 if it doesn't get delayed again. So what is Xbox's 2026 going to look like in your view? What's your outlook?
It has to be the content. It has to be the games. The games are going to have to do the talking for them. It'll be very interesting to see what we're going to get at this developer direct in a few weeks here. I would assume the main event's going to be Forza Horizon 6, but when you think about, there's a Gears E Day, potentially Fable, knock on wood, if that comes out this year, where's State of Decay 3? Are there going to be some smaller surprise titles that we have no idea about? What are their third party partnerships going to look like? What are they going to do to incentivize people to actually subscribe to Game Pass? That steady flow of content that makes you want to stay subscribed month after month, because there's always going to be something that you're going to want to play, be it a big AAA title or, something that's AA or indie. So it's got to be the games, man. And as we know, they got to be quality. They got to be good. I personally feel like there's about 3 or 4 titles that I know are going to be coming out this year, or at least a part of Game Pass, and I'm excited to play. So I'm looking forward to that, but it needs to be more than just that. And then when we get to the June showcase, what are you going to show us that's coming the second half of the year? And then obviously the 25th anniversary should be this big celebration of Xbox, and that only works if you're leading up to that with just a strong lineup of games, and then you get to that milestone, and then you can talk about here's what we have coming the next 25 years, or however they want to phrase it, right? And you would imagine part of that is going to be showing off whatever this next generation hardware is going to be. So I think Xbox has a golden opportunity here in 2026 to really show why all these acquisitions matter to them, help us better understand that this is an Xbox strategy of these games are available in multiple places, highlight the services that you have, continue to refine whatever the Windows platform is going to look like for gaming, and they just go from there. But we'll see. But like I said, none of it matters if the games aren't there and they aren't good. So it all starts with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, as we wrap up here, I suppose, like, one thing, let's finish on a more fun question, because I think one of the things that bugs me about Xbox right now and Xbox coverage is that so much of it revolves around things that aren't games. It's like, is this strategy going to be good? Like, where's the Xbox stock? Like, one thing that I constantly get DMs about is like, there's no stock of Xbox at my store, my local store, or in my country, and things like that. Really feels like, like, on the face of it, there's so much evidence that Xbox is almost like just sort of become ambivalent. But it's like in 2026, they do have like so many games launching, but also nostalgic games, nostalgic franchises that celebrate the legacy of the brand, and also like this opportunity. Like, I've heard they're going to go hard on celebrating the Xbox brand and community and its legacy in 2026, but we're coming in at a time where it feels like the community is in disarray, at least if you look on, Reddit or YouTube or social media. But there's, like you said, there are millions of people who they don't even know who Phil Spencer is. They're just loving their Xboxes. They play Overwatch, Marvel's Rivals, Rocket League, whatever, and none of this stuff is an issue to them. But if you're in the hobby and you're like one of those passionate hardcore fans, it feels almost exhausting at times to constantly go through this roundabout of like, is Xbox doing the right thing and stuff like that. So I want to end on a positive note, because there are cool things coming, and there are cool things to look forward to, like the Xbox Dev Direct on January 26th, if I remember correctly. What are the games you are looking most forward to in 2026? And they don't have to be Microsoft games. Give us your gaming targets for 2026, Paris.
Grand Theft Auto 6 aside, because that's just the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right?
Yeah.
Right. Planet of Lana 2.
No, I never played.
You didn't get to see that Gamescom? Because I got to demo it at Gamescom. That's what hooked me. Oh yeah. So when I got a chance to get the demo and play it, about a good 45 minutes, hour, I was like, oh, because I love the first one. They're just improving on so much from the first one. I just love all the additions that they're adding into it. So that's high on my list.
What kind of game is that?
Too.
Is it a platformer? Planet of Lana?
Platform. There's some platforming elements, light platforming, very light. It's more of a puzzler, right? Like environmental puzzle elements, things like that.
Limbo?
And then similar, maybe. Yeah, I think that'd be an okay comparison with it. The art style in it and the music, it's just fantastic. And building off of that story that they were telling in the first one, because there's no real dialogue in it. It's a lot of, funny little cues and things like that. But anyways, they're building off of that story that they told in the first one and bringing it back again. But they've improved a lot of the environmental puzzles that are in there. There's underwater elements that are in it now. And like I said, just the art and the music, and it's just so good. So that immediately is top of mind. Something that I'm really looking forward to. Gears of War E-Day. I mean, I can't wait. I mean, I love Marcus and Dom. So to finally get that Emergence Day story told, I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I hope Fable comes out this year. Until they say it's not, I'm going to remain hopeful that it does. Looking forward to that. Wolverine, Soros, both of those games, day one for me as well. Fascinated to see what Nintendo might do with Mario in 2026. Obviously, with this movie coming out, and is it the 40-year anniversary? Is that what it is? There's some anniversary this year for Mario, right? I think. But anyways, I'll be very curious to see what they do with that. I was going to say, if I didn't say it already, High on Life 2, when I got a chance to demo that at Gamescom, that excited me as well. Replaced is something that I've been anticipating for years at this point, so really looking forward to that too. I would say, sticking with Xbox, are we going to see State of Decay 3 this year? Maybe not. I'm personally...
I don't think it'll launch, but we'll see it at the June showcase, I think.
Yeah.
At the
and I'm not one of those, like, I've seen some people thinking we're getting Clockwork Revolution this year. I don't think so.
No, I don't think
to your point, I think we'll see it, but I don't think we get it. God, what else? I feel like there's something. Oh, Forza Horizon 6. Oh, duh. Of course. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be big as well. But this is kind of the point. Not even just purposely trying to say Xbox games. A lot of the games that I'm anticipating this year are going to be Xbox games or Xbox adjacent, because they're going to be on Game Pass or something like that. So I do think, it'll be a big year for them. And I'm excited to see all that come to fruition and see how they deliver on that. And like I said before, I want to continue to see them iterate on the Ally X and what they're doing with Windows, especially on the handheld side of it, and this Xbox full screen experience. I want to continue to see improvements with that, because I do think, bringing this full circle to what we initially talked about, I think there's a lot of potential there. They just have to deliver on it, and they know it. I've had those conversations, and I'm pretty sure you have too. They just gotta deliver. And you would imagine that what we're seeing right now with this Ally X and what they'll probably do in 2026 is just setting up what the next Xbox is going to be from a UI and an OS standpoint. So excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Xbox Ally updates. I check my device like every day. Is there an update?
It's so funny. Every time I turn it on, I do the same thing. Yeah. That's so funny. I do it too. Yeah.
It's almost a habit for me. It's not just on the Ally. I do it on my PC. I open Microsoft Store, check if I've got app updates. On my phone, I open Google Play, check if there's updates. I constantly want to see new stuff. But let me ask you this. Are you going to jump back into Starfield if there's the big 2.0 next year?
1000%. You know what's funny? I got to tell you a story. Oh, actually, you and I DM'd a little bit on this, so you already know this. So it was so funny. I put that tweet out, right? Like, I can't wait to see what Starfield is going to be in 2026 or whatever I said, right? And I pulled that picture, because that was a picture that we had made, because I did the Starfield review for Kind of Funny. And that was just an old picture from launch. And I had found it, which is what made me think about it. And that's why I tweeted it. So I just posted it. That was it. I knew nothing about some creator event people got to see. I had no freaking clue. And I'm on Reddit. I'm all over social media, and I got people DMing me. I had people at Bethesda DMing me, and I'm like, no, I don't know anything. I'm excited for the game. That's it. Right. Because I like Starfield. I've always liked Starfield. Is it perfect? No, of course not. There's a lot of things about Starfield that they can fix and improve, of course. But I enjoyed my time with it. I should go look again. I know I'm pretty close to 200 hours in Starfield. And yeah, at some point I put it down because we're obviously reviewing and playing a million other games, but I do want to see what updates that they have. And, we'll go from there and judge it accordingly. Now, I may or may not have had someone that saw whatever they were going to show, basically didn't give me details other than to say temper expectation, which is fair. And that's fine. I'm not expecting this to be Cyberpunk 2.0 or Phantom Liberty type update, but there's definitely some quality of life features I hope that they're going to fix in Starfield. And, we'll just go from there. But I know you want this on a positive note, but I will say this about Starfield. I think that game has been unfairly judged because there was a lot of hype coming up to launch, game of the generation, all these things. It's not. It never was. No. But if you just play the game for what it is and for what they were attempting to do, it's fine. Like I gave it an 8 out of 10 at launch, and I stand behind that. But I do think some of the Starfield hate is just overly exaggerated, and it's not a terrible game. Could it be better? Of course, but it's not terrible. It's definitely something that if you go play it, I think you'll have a good time with it.
Yeah, I completely agree on Starfield. I mean, the footage we're rolling for this podcast is Fallout 4, which is a game I've been, like the TV show's out, and I haven't even watched the season 2 yet because I'm waiting to watch it with my girlfriend when I go back to Germany. But like in anticipation of that, I've got back into Fallout 4, and also there was a big anniversary update and the Xbox Ally update, and it runs really, really well on the Xbox Ally X. Like you can run it in low power mode, and it runs at 60 frames, especially in interior places, and it's like, this is like a high quality 3D game that I can play with maximum battery life. It's ideal kind of game for handheld. And so I got really back into it, and I'm sitting there playing it like how it's meant to be played. I'm not trying to play it like it's an RPG. I'm playing it like it's an open world sandboxy kind of shooter, and I'm having an absolute blast with it, I think, and yeah, like there's a lot of people I feel like playing Fallout 4 again because of the TV show. Like Gene Park's been playing it, and Chris Raygun from Last Stand Media. He said something like, Fallout 4 is a 10 out of 10, 7 out of 10 game, and I kind of feel like Starfield kind of fits that description as well in a way, because it's like there's a lot of problems with it, but it does something that these Bethesda games do, something that no other game does like that well, Like you can just step into like a random building in Fallout 4 and discover this huge amount of world building and lore and story content, even if it's just told through holotypes or terminals and stuff like that. Like even Fallout 76 was like that, man. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back into Starfield.
Yeah, it's funny though, just sticking on the Fallout 4 thing, because I've seen you talking about it a lot, and then Gene Park as well. And I will fully admit, I've not ever really given Fallout 4 a true fair chance. Like I think New Vegas is one of the best games ever. I mean, once they patched it because it was buggy at launch, but you go play it now, it's still fantastic. I love Fallout 3 as well. And I got into 76, and it was the TV show that got me into 76. And I really started playing that a lot last year. And to your point, I've already seen some of season 2 already, but there's embargo stuff, so I have no opinion on it yet. But I mean, for me, it's just time. Like I like 76 now. I really like Burning Springs. I got to preview it. I like where Fallout 76 is right now for the game that it is. And it sounds like what you're saying, like Fallout 4 is something that I should at least give a chance. Definitely. I just got to find the time to actually do it. But I will say this overall, just about Fallout period. How I wish they would have saw it coming with the television show and already had things in place. Because could you imagine? And even if it wasn't season 1, imagine, and I get they did the best that they could to have 76 have some content. But could you imagine if they had some new Fallout content to drop right now? It would be huge for them. Clearly we saw with the Last of Us, look, at least season 1, how great that was. And then now Fallout came in. I mean, I'm sure they Halo's a whole nother story when it comes to that, but there's definitely something there where if you can take a video game property and bring it to as a movie or a television show, you're going to attract a new audience. They want to go, oh, wait, there's a game with this too? Oh, man, I should go check that out. Because we saw last year, people started jumping back into Fallout as a result. And like I said, 76 has Burning Springs, which, like I said, I like it. But I do wish there was a new standalone Fallout that was available right now. I really do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, they have Todd Howard said, yeah, we're investing more so in Fallout than any other franchise right now. And it's kind of like, it's frustrating because I do feel like Starfield is going to miss out on its true potential because of Fallout. As much as I love Fallout, I kind of just wish there was an infinite money glitch, I guess, where they could make all of this stuff work, because they've got Elder Scrolls 6 as well. And the expectation for Elder Scrolls 6 is like beyond. It's Starfield-esque, you know. It's got such a legacy to live up to with Starfield. And then you've got the Fallout as well. You know, people's expectation for Fallout are bigger than ever. And I really feel like of all Microsoft's franchises right now, all of them, I think Fallout has got even more potential, possibly, than Call of Duty, I think. Unrealized potential.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but it's funny you bring up Call of Duty, and obviously, rest in peace to Vince Zampella. It's just so tragic that terrible. You know that happened last week. But
terrible.
It's gonna be curious to see because I guess what is it rumored? Modern Warfare 4 or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
something coming is the next one. I'm glad that they're already saying, hey, we're not going to do back-to-back Black Ops or Modern Warfare stuff moving forward, because they shouldn't. But yeah, Call of Duty has to evolve. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over, because eventually people are going to grow tired of it. And Black Ops 7 is a prime example of this. And people forget, this is not the first time this has happened to Call of Duty. I forget which. Was it Black Ops 3? They didn't have the campaign or something, and then there was the other one
Ghost.
Where all it was, Ghost, and there was another one too. So Call of Duty has been a roller coaster where there's been some really good ones and some stinkers along the way.
Yeah.
But bring it again to just our conversation. Now that they've been acquired by Microsoft, there's definitely more scrutiny on the franchise, and yeah, you cannot let this thing, and I think part of it too, and I'm kind of all over the place and I apologize. I think part of it too, again, just with Vince Zampella, he resurrected Battlefield. Battlefield is a legitimate contender to what they're doing right now. Like I said, the last time I got to see him was at the Battlefield 6 preview event, and he went out of his way to sit down and talk to us, and immediately wanted to know, what do you like? What we can do better? Because they wanted to get Battlefield right. And you obviously saw, even when they had some issues at launch, he was the one that came out like, bro, just go get it on Steam. It's like he wanted people to play this game because that's how good Battlefield 6 was. And I think that layer of competition will be good for Call of Duty, because they can't just rest on the laurels. If EA now has a legitimate competitor to them, all right, Call of Duty, you got to step your game up, and you gotta evolve. You got to innovate. You got to do something to keep people engaged to want to keep playing it, because now there's an alternative.
I was told to that effect, you know, that the Call of Duty team is really hungry. They're not used to losing. And there was a big presentation internally at Microsoft last week, or the week, no, it would have been the week before now. I've lost track of time because of the holidays, but you know, there's a real desire in that team, I think. So competition is really important, you know, and in delivering innovation. And I think we'll see that out of Call of Duty in the future. But I just, you know, wrapping up here, man, I thank you so much for jumping on with me and talking, recapping the year of Xbox and what we expect from the future and things like that. Let the good people of Xbox 2 know where they can find you on the internet.
Sure. You can find me over at GamerTag Radio. You can find me as a contributor over at Kind of Funny Games. I have my own personal YouTube channel, which is youtube.com, I think / it's my name, PARRIS, PARRIS ML. And I'm definitely starting to put more and more content over there. Just, have my own voice where say whatever I want to say, put out whatever content I want to put out. And then I'm on social media at Vicious696 on all social media platforms.
Brilliant. I'll also add those to the description so you guys could check it out both in the description here on YouTube and also on Spotify as well, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been Xbox 2+1 -1 because Rand isn't here. Best wishes to Rand and Rand's family. And episode 35. And we're wrapping up 2025 here. I hope you all had an amazing holiday season. And I hope you have a merry, merry new year filled with games and more games and some more games and some games. So, yeah. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Keep it gaming, guys. Bye.